Everybody, it's Mike from the Mike Wagner Show, powered by Soundwave Studios, brought to you by our official sponsor, the Mike Wagner Show, international warring author Mia Moses Missing, available on Amazon and paperback and ebook. Coming soon, Missing 2, double expense, double the fun. Check it out on Amazon. Also brought to you by a sweet psalm, special Reno Wagner, based on the life of Dave, including 30 quiz of pains and King David Psalms. Amazon.com, keyword Sweet Psalmist Serena Wagner. Also, so check out the Mike Wagner Show at the MikeWagnerShow.com and on Linktree at the Mike Wagner Show. 50 podcast platforms, 110 countries, including Facebook, SoundCloud, Spreaker, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple Music, BitChute, Rumble, and YouTube. Follow us on Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, TikTok, and Facebook today. We're here with the terrific Lee, who is a Canadian author who began her career in social services with a degree in psychology, founding member of a shelter for victims of domestic violence, and a prison guard at a men's institution, and also got into criminology as well, and later switched to English. We'll get to more about that. She got a degree in it. She has a new book about a woman thrust into the turbulent 1970s and forced to make bold decisions and basically chart a new course at 17 and challenge defy the whims of parents and boyfriends alike. The book is called Everything That I Hoped For. Live, ladies and gentlemen, plus dudes in beautiful downtown Toronto, the amazing Canadian author began career in social services, and she became an author with the book Everything I Hope For, the multi-talented Cinda Gault. Cinda, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you very much. Pleased to be here.
And great to have you on board, Cinda. So you're a Canadian author who began your career in social services with a degree in psychology. You're also a founding member of a shelter for victims of domestic violence, and you're a prison guard at a men's institution. You have a degree in criminology. You later switched to English. And also you have a new book, which is about a woman thrust into the turbulent 70s of being forced to make bold decisions and chart a new course at 17 and challenge the fight and whims of parents and boyfriends alike. The book is called Everything I Hope For. Good. No, Cinda, tell us how you first got started.
I was not someone who knew she wanted to be a writer from a young age. I tended to follow my interests, which brought me to doing an undergrad in psychology at the University of Guelph. And I was one of those young feminists in the 70s running around setting up shelters for victims of domestic violence and rape crisis center lines and distress lines and that sort of thing. So with a group of women, we started a university club called Women in Crisis, and that's exactly what we set about doing. And I became the first director. And once I finished the project of setting up the shelter, and it went downtown into Guelph, and it still exists today, I felt that I had been working with victims for a long time, and I would like to go check out some perpetrators. So I went and became a guard at the Guelph Correctional Center, and they had a maximum security wing for inmates who were convicted of sexual assault or arson or just had mental or emotional problems. And I did that for 13 months and then went on to do my MA in criminology at U of T. And I got my dream job after that of being the director of a social service agency, and I hated it.
I hated it. What was up with that, mind if I ask?
I learned that I do not like managing people. I do not like being the one in charge of making sure that they're not talking and that they're doing their work and that sort of thing. That it's like being somebody's mummy and they're not cute enough to be for me to be their mummy. So
right. Or it's like micromanagement or something like that.
I'm in charge of somebody else's productivity. I did not like doing that. I would far prefer to do the work rather than manage the people who are doing the work. So I knew I was at a crossroads and I had to figure out what I could do that would be deeply meaningful to me. And I had always loved school. I always was good at reading and writing. I always was a voracious reader. So I decided that I would switch and become a writer. And I recognized I had to make some money by it. So I decided I would figure out how to write a romance. I had never read one before, but now I was reading them by the dozens. And that wound up being published as a romance called Past Convictions, and it became a Harlequin super romance in 1988. And that's a whole story. And then I decided that I better go back to school in English because I had been in social sciences, and you write very differently for social sciences than you do for English or for a literature. So I needed to study the tradition I wanted to become part of. So I went back and did another MA in English, and I caught fire academically and went on to do a PhD in English. And my thesis for that degree was looking at 3 Canadian women writers who came to publishing prominence in what I called the identity years, that were 1965 to 1980.
Oh, really? Who were they, if I ask you? This is really
Yeah.
interesting.
Okay, Margaret Lawrence, Margaret Atwood, and Marion Engel. And so that was a whole story there. And then I decided the third thing I would do would be have my babies. And I had 2 sons at that time. And I wound up going to graduate school with a 2-year-old and a 5-year-old to start out.
Nice.
If you ever want to make somebody really miserable, suggest they do that. and then after a number of years, I had completed my PhD, and my sons had mercifully gone off to university. And those were 2 big projects off my shoulders, and I felt like being free. So I was teaching at the time, but I could also get back to writing. And I just felt like galloping over the plains with the wind blowing through my hair. So I decided I would start researching the Jesse James gang, because they got to ride horses and do whatever they wanted. So that was the seed that was planted that ended up becoming my first historical novel, This Godforsaken Place.
Okay. And This Godforsaken Place is more an offshoot of Jesse James. Is that right?
Well, it's not an offshoot, but I do have a pivotal character in the story who was a Jesse James gang character. The protagonist for that story is a 22-year-old British woman named Abigail, and she's at her mother's deathbed in England, and her mother expresses regret for not having been more adventurous. She'd never been past her garden gate, and she said that she had lived a life of a very small compass, which is where I got the title for my next novel. So after she died, Abigail and her father came to Northwestern Ontario to teach. And soon after they got there, he fell ill with consumption. So she was thinking, oh my God, I'm going to be stranded here by myself for the rest of my life with a store owner who was expressing far too much interest in her. And so she felt trapped, and she bought a rifle just to feel like she could do something. And she was out the back, 40 that rocks rather than anything that would be a farm, practicing her shooting. And who does she stumble over but a wounded Jesse James gang member? So that's where it comes in. And she was bending over trying to figure out who he was and where he came from when somebody shot at her from behind, and she wheeled around with a rifle and shot dead the Pinkerton cop that was tracking him. So now she had a big problem on her hands. Ooh. And for that story, I wanted to incorporate some historical characters, one of which was, his name was Gabriel Dumont, and he was Louis Riel's right-hand military general during the Louis Riel Rebellion. And I was surprised during my research on the Jesse James gang how closely American and Canadian histories were unfolding at that time, because the Jesse James gang was up to its hijinks at the same time that rebellion was going on. And Minnesota's not that far away from those prairie provinces in Canada. So anyway, I found Gabriel Dumont to be an interesting guy because by all accounts, he was a brilliant strategist as a military general, but he'd think of something to do that probably would have changed the course of their rebellion. And Louis Riel would say to him, God doesn't want you to do that. So he'd stand back, which seemed to me kind of an unusual thing for a military kind of guy to do. But he wound up at the Bill Cody Wild West show in New York at that time, as did Annie Oakley, who was another character who interested me. She was the Wayne Gretzky of her time with a rifle instead of a hockey stick. And I found that the 2 of them wound up at the Bill Cody show at the same time. So when my protagonist needed to go on her epic journey, I now had a destination for her, and she would meet up with those 2 historical characters.
You talk about Jesse James a quite deal so far, and this is done a Canadian version. I don't know if you researched the American version of it. How does the Canadian version of Jesse James differ from the American version of Jesse James, or like Annie Oakley and those in the Wild Wild West?
Well, I just read research about them. I don't think that there's anything particularly different, Canadian or American. I read a biography of Annie Oakley, written by an American, but I just found them fascinating characters for who they were, and my character winds up meeting them and becoming involved with them in the plot of the story.
Okay, I just wanted to get that clear as well too. And what was that one exact precise moment that simply influenced you into what you do in the rest of your career?
Well, it was that moment when I realized that the path that I had been on was not working. And I had to do something. I mean, if you're going to do any kind of job, it's going to be challenging. It's going to take something out of you. It's going to have its own frustrations. But what makes up for that is if it feels deeply meaningful to you. And so that's what I wanted to find. And writing seemed like a deeply meaningful thing to do
Mm-hmm.
for me. So,
And you certainly do a really good job. You also have another book out there. It's called Bobsha. Did I get that right? Babcza. Is that right?
that's the right name, Bob Shaw, but it's not a book. It's a short story.
Oh, it is. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, we'll get to more of that along with everything I hope for with the amazing Canadian author Cinda Gault. But first, listen to the Mike Wagner Show at the MikeWagnerShow.com, powered by SoundCloud Studios. Visit online at SoundCloudStudios.com for all your needs. Look at a professional website without breaking your budget. SoundCloud Studios is the answer. SoundCloud Studios offers fast, affordable custom web designs that blow the competition away. Call today, 1-800-303-3960. It's 1-800-303-3960 or email to support@sonicwebstudios.com. Mention the Mike Wagner Show, get 20% off your first project. Sonic Web Studios, take your image to the next level. Also, time to give an official shout out to our official sponsor of the Mike Wagner Show, international warring author Mia Molson-Zia. If you love fast-paced mysteries, you'll love Missing by Mia Molson-Zia, available on Amazon in paperback and ebook. Missing is fast-paced and intriguing with an unforgettable twist. It takes place in 4 countries, 2 strangers, 1 target, where truth is illusion and those will be the first go missing. It's available on Amazon in paperback and ebook. Missing by Mia Molson-Zia has gone great reviews. And Evil Evan George by Howard celebrities, including Joanna Cassidy, Forrest Riley, and many others. So grab your copy today. 4 Goes Missing by Mia Molson-Zia, available on Amazon. Coming soon, Missing 2, Double Expense, Double of Fun. Check it out on Amazon. Also brought to you by a Sweet Psalmist by Serena Wagner, based on the life of David, including 30 exquisite pains and King David Psalms. The Sweet Psalmist gives new perspective of David through the Psalms he wrote as the time of shepherd started and complicate your turbo relationship with King Saul. It's a story of love, betrayal, repentance, hope, and more. Check out the Sweet Psalmist by Serena Wagner on Amazon. Keyword Sweet Psalmist Serena Wagner. Also, check out the Mike Wagner Show at the MikeWagnerShow.com and a link tree at the Mike Wagner Show. 50 podcast platforms, 110 countries, including Facebook, SoundCloud, Spreaker, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple Music, BitChute, Rumble, and YouTube. Follow us on Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, TikTok today, and take us with you on any mobile device. And for great gift ideas, go to Amazon.com. Check out the Mike Wagner Show podcast. T-shirts, pop sockets, throw pillows, tote bags, hoodies, makes great gifts 24/7. Go to Amazon.com. Check out the Mike Wagner Show podcast. And for more great gift ideas, go to Amazon.com/Mia Molson-Zia for great books, merchandise, and more. And support the Mike Wagner Show on Anchor FM, PayPal, and the MikeWagnerShow.com. We're here with amazing multi-talented Canadian author who began her career in social services. Now has become a writer with everything I hope for. Mike Wagner Show. Before I get to your latest book, you have a short story, as you mentioned, with Bobsha, and tell us about that one.
Well, Bobsha is a short story, so there's not an awful lot to tell about as far as plot is concerned, but it's about a woman who lives next door to a Polish grandmother age woman, and the protagonist in that story has lost her baby at birth. It was born and died a few hours after that. And it's about her relationship with that grandmother kind of over the back fence and how she comes to deal with her grief about it. So that's going back a lot of years, that story.
Oh, wow. About how far back?
I would say a good 20 years.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, things must have changed around that time. And of course, we did talk about small companies. You jumped in, this godforsaken place, past convictions. And the new book, you have Everything I Hope For. It's about a woman thrust into turbulent 70s, forced to make bold decisions and chart a new course at 17. And tell us more about that book and what inspired you to write it.
Okay, well, it's the first book I told you about, This Godforsaken Place, and the second book, A Small Compass, were both historical novels that I came to understand through research. I did a lot of research for both of them. And the third one, being Everything I Hope For, is considered historical because it's set more than 50 years ago. So I'm walking, talking historical. So because I lived through that time, I didn't need to research the times. I didn't need to research the history, but it gives a different kind of flavor when you've lived through it, because you get a sense of history kind of conditioning you as you go forward in your life. Now, this is going to be the most autobiographic in spirit book that I ever write. But it comes at a time in the 70s. The 70s were very turbulent times, and they were very exciting times too. In Canada, the Divorce Act was changed in 1968 to make it easier for people to get divorces, and there was a pent-up desire for it. So all through the 70s, there was a very high divorce rate. And so that's kind of what she's walking into as this protagonist comes of age during that time, and chooses the boyfriend that will blow her life up, the long-haired hippie with no job, would rain hell down on you at that time. But it was also an exciting time for women, because you had women being able to go and do things they couldn't do before. Go off and become a prison guard in a men's prison, for example. There were also droves of women who went to post-secondary education, which had not been the case before. You had many women going out to work, no matter what age they were. You had the pill, so female autonomy, reproductive autonomy was much more within their grasp than it ever had been. And we had Henry Morgentaler. I don't know if you recognize that name, but he was the doctor who basically brought Canada to its knees as far as the issue of abortion was concerned. And Canada is now the only Western country in the world that does not have an abortion law. And
really, no abortion law. That's interesting.
None at all.
Okay, so it's like anybody from the world all over can come to Canada and get an abortion without problems, or nowadays you have to you get a visa in order to get in the country.
Well, I don't know, because I'm a Canadian and I don't know about people coming to Canada to get an abortion, but it means that abortion is none of the nation state's business in Canada. And it's between a woman and her doctor, and there's no appetite here to reopen that issue. So it used to be in the criminal code, and the Supreme Court knocked it down, and so there's just no law about it one way or the other. So I don't know about other people coming here, but it's certainly not an issue for Canadian women.
Mm-hmm. And plus some other things also went on during the turbulent 70s. You talked about, women getting, post-secondary education and some of the turbulent things going on. What are some of the other changes that Canada went through in the 70s?
Well, the 70s were the Pierre Trudeau times. So there was a surge in the country feeling good about itself, sort of the soft kind of nationalism that just people were interested in their own country. There used to be lines of young people hitchhiking out west just to go check out the country, see what it looks like. I mean, it's a huge country, and Pierre Trudeau made it seem like it was an interesting, cool kind of place. So that was during the times that I was doing the focus of my thesis on Canadian women writers who came to publishing prominence during the years 1965 to 1980. And the idea of being Canadian and being a woman were both things that people found very exciting at the time. So they were heady days. But they were turbulent days, because when you have that kind of social change, there's a lot of confusion that's going on. So a lot of families were disrupted by a very high divorce rate. It settled down a little bit after the 70s, but the protagonist walks into that, all of that confusion at a time when she's coming into her own adulthood, and she chooses the boyfriend that is going to blow everything up. Now, you could go into a few different ways with a story like this. You could have it be like a Romeo and Juliet story, that true love was made impossible because of interference from the outside. It's not that kind of story. You could also make it the kind of story where a young woman goes out, makes her mistakes, realizes what she did wrong, comes back home and behaves herself and lives a more conventional life. Well, that's not this book either, because in part the family had blown up by that time. The third could be just a naturalist kind of story where everybody's just crushed, and it's not that kind of a story either. It's a story of a young woman who goes out into the world, experiences it, makes her own decisions, sort of takes her own lumps and learns from it, and then figures out how to navigate the complications of her time to have a meaningful and happy life.
Oh, that's very interesting. And if you want to go ahead and read a few excerpts on that, would you mind doing that for us?
I don't have the book handy here. Do you want me to go off and get it?
That's okay. If you want to, that's fine. Or to have you like maybe read a chapter. But in the meantime, we'll continue on with everything I hope for with Cinda Gault in a minute. You listen to the Mike Wagner Show at the MikeWagnerShow.com, powered by SoundCloud Studios, brought to you by official sponsor of the Mike Wagner Show, international warring author Mia Moses Missing, the Sweet Psalmist by Serena Wagner, based on the life of David, including 30 exquisite pains and candy habit psalms. Amazon.com, keyword Sweet Psalmist Serena Wagner. We'll be back with multi-talented Canadian author Cinda Gault of Everything I Hope For after this time out. We're back with Canadian author Cinda Gault of Everything I Hope For here on the Mike Wagner Show. And just a couple of things about the book. And what else do you want readers to get from the book, Cinda?
It's been very interesting to me to look back on the books that I've written because they have a similar theme to all of them. They're about women who will go out and have their adventures, no matter what the obstacles are. And so, I mean, that's the inspiration of them. The book in the middle that we haven't talked about is A Small Compass, and it has a similar kind of theme, and it was set in 1803. And this is where you're going to have your Pembina tie-in, because the woman who, I have two protagonists, and one of them was named Isabel Gunn from Orkney, Scotland. And in 1803, she cut her hair and disguised herself as a man and got hired onto the Hudson's Bay ship that took her over to Canada to work in the fur trade. And she did that successfully for 18 months. And it was in Pembina, at the Hudson's Bay post in Pembina, that she was outed because she had a baby on the hearth. And that's kind of hard to hide. And the other woman who's there are two main protagonists, and the other women, and these are people who really existed, by the way. And the other one was Marianne Gabry, and she was from Masquinongé, Quebec, and she was determined she was not going to be a farmer's wife. So she had turned down all marriage proposals from her little village until one day a coureur de bois blew into town, probably with his sexy leather fringed jacket, and swept her off her feet. And he had planned to stay, but circumstance had it that he had to go back out west again. And she said, if you don't take me with you, then you're never going to see me again. So she became the first passenger paddled by voyageurs rather than being a voyageur. So out she went, and where does she wind up? Pembina, that was in Canada then, and it's in North Dakota now. And these two women were the first non-Indigenous women to go into the Canadian wilderness. And they wound up at the same place, and they had their babies within a week of each other. Oh, and wow. there's no historical record of them ever having met. So in my story, I have them meet and have to help each other against struggles that ensue.
Okay, that's fascinating. We want everybody to check that out. Meantime, where can we find Everything I Hope For and all your works at, Cinda?
You can get it from my publisher, which is Grey Goose Press, or you can get it at Amazon. You can get all of them through Amazon as well.
Okay, we'll certainly check that out. And also your website. I forgot to ask you that.
Yes, it's cindagault.com. If you Google my name, you'll get all of this stuff come up.
That's CindaGault.com. We want everybody to check that out. We're here with the amazing Canadian author Cinda Gault of Everything I Hope For here on the Mike Wagner Show. Cinda, just a few more things. What else can we expecting for the rest of 2025 and going into 2026 and beyond?
Well, a book that has just been published in this last week is the rewriting of the first book I wrote, which was the romance I was telling you about, called Past Convictions. And Harlequin has a program by which you can apply to get your rights back, which I did. So my current publisher, Grey Goose Press, wanted to publish that again. So I got my rights back, and I revised it because, of course, I didn't even have an electronic copy of that because I typed it out on a manual typewriter in the 80s. And so my millennial kids said, Mom, you don't have to retype it. You can do image to text software. And so in 2 hours, I had an electronic copy of it. But I needed to revise it because I had phone booths and I had landlines and I had tape recorders. And those sort of things needed to be, there were no cell phones, there were no computers. So I needed to revise the technology in it. But I was quite pleased that I did not have to do anything about the romance. The romance stood the test of time. So that has just been, it's set in Guelph, and the heroine is a juveniles police officer and the hero runs a group home. And they disagree over how to bring up a kid. In a romance, the hard part of it is having them argue about something for 350 pages without either one looking like an idiot. So they have to have something real to be arguing about. So it was how to bring up children, and they both had good points. So that I did not own the artwork for the Harlequin either. So my current publisher came up with new artwork, and that, called Past Convictions, has just been republished just in the last week. And for next year, I am actually coming out with a children's book.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yes.
Love to have you back and talk more about that. We all love children's books at this time. And who do you consider biggest influence in your career?
I have had many editors who have been very helpful to me, that they have given me to be able to work with somebody on your book is actually a pleasure. Because someone is excited about your story and is bringing expertise to it to make it better. So I would say I have really appreciated the involvement of editors as I've gone along. I've had different editors for several of my books, and I find them very, very helpful.
And certainly very helpful indeed. And what's the best advice you can give to anybody at this point?
Anybody in life, or anybody
in general? In general.
I would say it would be to make your own decisions and learn from your own life. I don't think anyone's going to give you any advice that's going to give you an easier life, nor should they, because they would rob you of the learning that you had to do. We live on a fascinating planet with all its problems and everything else. It's the odds of us actually being here in the first place, when you think of all those eggs and all that sperm and it ended up with you, and that you're here on this rather fascinating planet, that you get a chance to live here for whatever number of years you do, that's a pretty big privilege. And I respect it. I know this body and brain is a rental, and I'm going to use it as much as I possibly can while I've got the use of it.
I think that's a great point you made. We'll certainly keep that in mind. We're here with amazing Canadian author Cinda Gault of Everything I Hope For here on the Mike Wagner Show. Cinda, very big thank you for your time. You've been absolutely fantastic. Learned a lot. Looking forward to having you soon. Keep us up to date. Keep in touch. Glad to have you back. What's your website? How do people contact you? Where can people purchase or check out your books?
They can purchase on Amazon, any of them. They can go to my website, cindagault.com. You can go directly to my publisher, greygoose.com.
We will certainly do that as well. Once again, Cinda, very big thank you for your time. You've been absolutely amazing. Looking forward to having you soon. Keep us up to date. Keep in touch. Glad to have you back. We wish our best. And Cinda, you definitely have a great future ahead of you.
Thank you very much, Mike. It's been a pleasure.